for that one. But my dad pretty much put a stop to that. Dad was always Don, and so I was always Donald until radio came along. Then when radio came along, the guy who's my first producer said, it is too hard to say Donald Leonard on the radio, so cut it.
You're like, okay.
Don, you were in radio. I mean, you've done so many things. I mean, my goodness, you need to write a book.
I've threatened to do that before.
Yeah.
You should.
We've talked about that sometimes, about the number of things we found ourselves in, different careers, different opportunities, different situations. And it's like, wow, okay, we should write this stuff down and share it, So
some of you just as soon forget.
Well, some of it's true, but that kind of made you who you are. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all safe, warm. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't nearly what they projected, which is always nice. It still is kind of weird here in Texas, where all the overpasses just freeze no matter what, right? So that was a new thing. I remember my first year here when it got cold. I was driving along. I couldn't figure out why people were going so slow until I started going like kind of sideways. Went, oh, okay, now I know. Because the road itself wasn't wet; it was just frozen. So, anyway, good morning. Who wants to start it off today? Any questions or anything you're dealing with over the weekend?
I was looking at the recorded videos from HomeSmart. I went to RSA, and it doesn't seem like there's a particular area where you can go just to the Houston office videos. When you go in, they're all scattered on the, with the other videos.
So you have to do a search basically for it versus you should. The way we store them is by link. So if like this one would be all in the Coffee Talk with Broker. We have one for Friday forums. We have one for brokers meetings. There should be a link for each one, and each one goes to a playlist. What I could do, because they all get stored on YouTube and then linked to Real Smart Agent. What I can do is just share out the YouTube channel, and then you can just go there directly and watch the videos if you want. But for the local ones, anyway.
Yeah.
Too bad they don't list them in alphabetical order. Then you could put Houston at the beginning of the title of each one, so you could find them easier.
Yeah, that made common sense. I don't know about that.
No, that's why you can't have that. Look at Raul and Jose. Good Lord, they look like twins.
I didn't get the memo, the black and white.
Okay, we go.
I did call him. I called Jose this morning to see what he was wearing.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
We didn't get the memo. Oh well.
I love it. And
Even the glasses. Look at the glasses.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Almost the same.
That's funny. I don't know about you on my screen though. It's Raul on top and Jose right below him. So yeah,
mine, right, one right above the other.
Oh.
That's funny.
Man, I'm going to have to stop drinking in the morning. I'm seeing double. It's like
that's funny. I'll look at that afterwards, Jose. I bet you we can figure that out so it's a little cleaner. That's good feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit confusing. I know sometimes with like the broker meetings, and there's on the introductory video, I think there's like a playlist. I was looking for that today, and I couldn't see the playlist.
There is a onboarding playlist, a Smart Start playlist, and there's something else. You're right. I'll see if I'll look for them again and send out you a link there. I know it's there as well. So
I heard that Don had a class about title. I think it was title issues, and I was interested.
it just came up during our contracts class. It just came up. Yeah, it was part of when we were talking about title, section 6 of the sales contract.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a specific.
We can do one. I mean, we can certainly do one.
we can get with Deanna and get a class together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I was thinking, would it make sense to do a class on calculating closing costs? You know, that's not one that we've done before. And I was thinking that maybe that doing an estimate of closing costs, especially for new agents, I thought that might be, you know, on the seller side at least. Buyer side, maybe not so much. Seller side, I thought that might be a good idea. Well, I see thumbs up. So yeah.
Part of best practices is to provide it in proceeds and do it multiple times. You have, here's our list price, here's net proceeds, here's the offer, what your net proceeds would be after this offer if you accept it as is. You know, then after concessions, here's what it is. Obviously, final numbers will come from escrow or title, you know, but that would be great, Don.
Yeah, and then we could talk about the fact that, you know, that if this isn't enough, what things can we do to have an impact on that bottom line number if they don't like that bottom line number? Because it's not always price, you know, because maybe we're bumping up against an appraisal or something like that. And we need to understand that just raising the sales price does not raise the net dollar for dollar, because title policy goes up, commission goes up, things like that.
Yep. Oftentimes too, you can talk about new construction is why they base their commission off the base price versus the additions, right?
Yes.
You know, here's your price for the house. Now you're going to add on this, and this. We're not making commission on that.
Oh,
right?
That's a great idea, since you're talking about new homes, talking about the fact that the way things are done here in Texas, that when the tax proration gets done, if you're early enough in the year, like now, that 10-1, that's an agent.
Probably.
That they base the tax proration on last year's taxes when it was a vacant lot, and that it's probably not going to be enough to really cover escrow for this year. You know, there's a lot that we can cover with that.
Well, and then as we're adding, I'll go to Maria in a second on that too. This is one of those things I've seen over the last 27 years is when people buy a property, whether it be new construction or not, but specifically new construction, is they get a notice after the first year from the title company, oh, we have an adjustment, right? It's either going to go up, or sometimes, oh, we have an overage, we're going to send you a check back. And 99% of the time, they take the check, they deposit it, and then they're short for the next time around.
Yeah.
I'm always like, yeah, they have to do that, but send it back in and put it towards your escrow account. Otherwise, it'd be negative. So, yep, I think that's all good.
Yeah,
and that may be good. That may be good, sort of like doing like you're doing the contract class too, kind of doing in smaller group settings. Be good.
Got it. Okay, yeah, good idea.
Marie.
Morning.
Morning.
I was going to ask Dawn. I was always told, like, when you do a listing, they want to know exactly. I said, we can't figure it out. I mean, we can't tell you exactly because, you know, it depends on the sales price. But I was always told more or less 10% of the sales price. Is that correct, Dawn?
That's going to be tough. I mean, if you're trying to find this general rule of thumb, then I've always said commission plus about between 3 and 6%. And that, you know, so that might fall in there, but there's just so many variables that I try to shy away from telling anybody to use a percentage, just because there's just so many variables. You know, are you going to ask to pay part of the buyer's closing costs, or, you know, what included on the contract are they going to ask you to pay for? It's a case by case. Yeah,
It has changed a lot, though. I know that.
It has. You're right.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Sure.
It's deeper than that too, because when do you close in a month? Or what month of the year do you close?
I'm interested.
Right? Based on taxes, proration, right? You know, HOA dues, that kind of stuff is all prorated to your point. Commissions as well. Different states got to be aware of that. I know that when I came from Washington, you had a 1.78% sales tax on every sale property, on top of your commissions, on top of everything else. So,
ouch, I'm glad we don't have that. Thank goodness.
You know, but that was one of those things. Like, so you had to figure out 1.78% of the sales price, and you had to, you know, your commission amounts, and you have your excise, you know, your transfer tax, your recording fees, and that kind of stuff. So each state, that's why you check with your title companies, like, which county is this in? What date are we closing? Can you prorate the taxes for me? Can you prorate these things to Dodge? So, but you can get close. If you're doing your investigation, you're serving in a certain area, you'll know the numbers are pretty straightforward in that specific region. But, you know, we have one closing that extended to the next month. All of a sudden now taxes were due, and it's changed the closing cost by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
Colleen.
So 3 things. First of all, in regards to escrow and stuff, and I really like the idea, Dawn, of you doing a class again on this. This is one reason why I have a conversation with my buyers in particular about having conversations with their lenders, because the lenders can get us closer to what the closing costs are going to be than what
On the buyer side, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
on the buyer side. On the listing side, I do use the net sheets that are available through HAR on MLS. And I always tell them this is an estimate. This is really an estimate, but it gives them some kind of idea about, what they're going to net. And but then also too, in regards to on new construction, I learned several years ago to have a conversation with my buyers on new construction. I always tell them, especially if we're early in the year, I always tell them, I said, look, we need to pay attention at title, and your good title companies will have a conversation with your buyers about how are they estimating their taxes. Is it off of the land? And, a lot of times the counties don't have in yet what the assessed true value of that property is going to be yet. Mm-hmm. So they're putting a lower amount on there. And I always tell my buyers anymore, you need to check at the end of the year, what are your actual taxes and what came out of escrow, and get with your lender to make sure you're making that adjustment for the next year. Because I've had, like 8 years ago, I learned this lesson the hard way through a buyer, where it was 2 years before the lenders got back to him and said, you're in the hole $5,000 on your tax. And so then they increased his escrow every month for a year and put him really outside of the scope of what he could really afford. And then I just heard another story the other day from my hairdresser who's saying that, they're way back in their taxes because they bought a new construction last year and now they owe $8,000 more in property taxes that they didn't know about. And because escrow, the escrow fund wasn't adjusted, based on land value versus what the assessed value ends up being with the completed home. And that takes a while sometimes for those numbers to come through. But anyway,
I'm surprised that where our agents are making a BTSA of $10,000 or whatever it is, plus commission, that a buyer in that situation goes, wait a minute, why am I negative? And now remember I got that bonus I signed off on you for?
Yeah. I always try to share some of my bonus with my buyers. But then I had another suggestion that came about from our forms meeting last Friday. We went, in the sellers, we were going through the form about all the definitions. And one of the definitions that's talked about is our expansive soils. And if you will look on our sellers disclosure, it talks about subsidence districts. Nobody knows what a subsidence district is, at least none of my sellers. And it'd be really nice. And I did take a class on it. It's been a couple of years ago, but I think it'd be helpful because especially here in Harris County in the northwestern part, that there's been some issues with us sinking, So I just don't know, Don, if there's some way that we can have a mini course or something on subsidence districts. And
we'd have to contact Harris County probably and find out where they are. I know Jersey Village has been suffering from that for years. And so, we could definitely dig into that some and find out exactly where they are. I think now they're talking about it out in Katy and Fulshire too, with all the new construction that's going on and pumping out as much water as they are to create drier land so they can build on more. I think, I'll take some notes here.
Okay. Before we move on, I'm going to share this real quick with everybody. All right. So you guys see this? This is my RSA portal. Lynn is asking for this. Jose, you're asking about this as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. So here we have the broker's meeting in place. We've got Coffee Talk with the Broker Team. These are the links to the playlists. So they're in there as far as your videos on your RSA. I'm not sure if you're going someplace else, but it should be in your window here. And all of these are links to a playlist. Born
Well-
Friday right here.
Well, I did that, but if you click on the, it doesn't take you to a link. It just many times it takes you directly to the video that's being displayed.
Yep.
See?
So that was the most recent one, and then go in here. Let's see here.
There's a chat. That's for the.
Right there to the right playlists. You see all the previous Born Fridays.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's where the playlist is at. Okay.
Yep, this is for everybody. So this is good that we do this. Coffee Talk with the Broker, same thing. Playlist, there's 8 of them in there.
There it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Got back, Linda.
All right.
Lunch and Learns. This is the previous ones that were the Friday fundamentals. All there. All right. Cool. Oftentimes it's easier to go look at it and do it yourself versus explain it. So Raul, you're up, buddy.
Oh, yes. Good morning. Well,
Morning.
back to what Don was saying about the variables, when it comes to having kind of a clear and professional way of presenting it to the sellers, and it comes out to, what the final amount is subject to the title company's, I guess, findings. Occasionally, you expect the unexpected. And one quick scenario that happened to me back in the years where we're sitting on the closing table, and all of a sudden, title company, escrow agent comes in and says, "Oh, we have a kind of a last minute judgment that needs to be paid." And I go, "Well, the buyer just kind of elbowed me," and he said, "Can we just talk about this outside?" It was a case of child support money that he needed to be kind of collected. Wow. So that was about $18,000.
Ouch.
Yeah. And so, it's always good about, what unexpected items like, maybe judgments, liens, or unpaid obligations that come up in the last minute or throughout through the title commitment. So to have a clear more way of what will be the final net proceeds for the seller.
We have I'm working on a short sale right now for with another agent of ours. Been working on for a long time. Don knows about this. We've had 4 approvals. Usually the buyer's not waiting, but we have the owner who has a $25,000 HOA fee that the short sale they won't pay more than a year, and the seller won't pay the fee. So the biggest problem is to have them pay for the short sale and then pay the HOA fee on behalf of the seller. And that's a big ask for. Like, what do you mean? But that's the only way to get it closed, because the seller doesn't have the funds or won't do the funds, or it goes into foreclosure. So sometimes you're forced with those things. So as much as up front, say, hey, we're not getting across the finish line this. You're aware of this, and are you able to take this up front? So we would having that tough conversation with buyers saying, this is not part of the purchase. This is just another fee that you're going to have to pay to close if you want the house.
Wow.
Yep. All right. We saw another hand. Sandy, thanks for, I know it's a hard time getting there, but I'm glad you're here. So.
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning.
I keep clicking on it and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting accepted. Let me send them a message. Thank you for the email.
You're welcome. Carell? Hope I didn't butcher that name. Go ahead.
She goes by Sarah.
Okay, Sarah.
Unmute yourself, Sarah. So Sarah and I had a conversation this morning already, and I invited her on so she could talk about her issue that she's got. Okay, good. Looks like you're unmuted now. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I spoke with Don this morning about my closing coming, and we have a sale price for $275K is the price on the contract, but after appraisal, it looked like the appraisal was higher. It was a $282,500. So the lender is asking me to change the purchasing price to the appraisal value. I'm like, it's not possible because I will not be able to change the contract because the appraisal I don't think the appraisal will have anything to do with the purchase price. And he told me, because the seller has they're trying to save money to the seller to bring less money to the table at the closing cost. I'm like, but what, because I was very confused. It's my first transaction anyway. So I'm like, what does the appraiser have to do with the closing costs? And if the buyer doesn't bring the extra money, the seller has to bring it. What is the benefit of the seller and what is the benefit of the buyer? That's why I try to understand what is going on. And I contacted this morning and I spoke with Don, and he told me there is a meeting. So I joined the meeting. Thank you, Don, so much for your help.
Wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, it's the buyer's lender calling, right? And
Yes.
so I think there's some confusion here. They're probably talking about the buyer's closing costs, since what they're saying is the appraisal came in higher, which means if you offered more for the property, then ask the seller to pay that difference towards the buyer. The buyer has less cost to bring in. They're still paying the same amount for the house, but now they're borrowing it versus paying it out of pocket. And so since they're saying that there's room in the purchase for the seller to contribute to the buyer now, with the seller netting the same. This is not good for the seller necessarily, because as Don said, the title cost goes up, commissions go up, by the small amount, but they do go up. Seller does pay more in a scenario, but it does help the buyer come in with less money to closing.
So I told her the first question is why?
Why? Yeah.
Why are they asking for that?
Yeah.
And it sounded like when I asked Sarah, does the buyer currently have enough money to close? Do they have enough down payment? Do they have enough closing costs? Do they have enough prepaid? She said yes. And if that's the case, then I don't understand why they're asking for that to occur. But if the buyer needs that assistance, if the buyer does not have enough to close, this is a way of holding the deal together, where they increase the sales price, and it's almost like financing closing costs. I mean, that's
exactly right.
Yeah,
There's one more additional reason why this could be, where their interest rate is not where they want the payment to be. And additional money down would buy the rate down to a rate that they could handle better. But the lender should be letting you know that we're going to buy the rate down with the extra money. We're going to do whatever. They're being creative either because the buyer doesn't have enough, or they need to buy the rate down to make the rate more whatever the word I'm looking for. For the buyer.
I think the first thing is try to determine, is it necessary?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had that before. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, yes, Daniel. That's one other thing. Ultimately, if it's only for purely selfish reasons, it's a bigger loan amount for the lender. So,
Yeah. So I spoke with the lender like 5 minutes ago, and she told me, they're not going to change the price anymore but the buyer has to bring money to the closing costs. I'm like, okay, they have money, they will bring the money. So I think what she's trying to do is to add money to the purchase price, so they can they can have a more loan. And the buyer doesn't want that. The buyer doesn't want that.
I'm assuming the lender's talking to the buyer. I think that's the biggest thing is the lender requesting it. So you need clarification. If the buyer doesn't want to, fine. Go ahead, Don.
It's possible the buyer didn't disclose how much money they really had to work with to the lender. And so the lender may have thought that the buyer didn't have the financial ability to close, and that's why they suggested it too. So it could be the lender trying to increase the loan amount, but how much more money are they going to make by doing that?
It's
not, especially the
minuscule.
loan officer. If it's the loan officer that's trying to increase the price by $7,500 or the loan amount by $7,500, you're talking about the loan officer making 75 more bucks.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. So I'm assuming this has to do with the buyer. What I would probably do is ask, if you can, get the lender to show the buyer what they would be coming in with right now, and to verify that they have that much funds. There's one thing to know that I have funds, but to know the prepaid costs, your closing costs, whatever they're paying on their behalf, if they have it. And then they can talk to the lender on, is this something they want to do? But Sandy, you were going to comment?
Yeah, I had that before, but it was not after we got the appraisal. It was way before. So we knew the house was priced right. The lender contacted me and told me that the buyer really needed some closing costs. If I can talk to my seller to bump up the price a little bit by $6,000-7,000 to give that back to the buyer. So I told him, I said, well, we are kind of like in the fence line. We know that if we go too high, it might not appraise. But we kind of like talk about it back and forth with the seller and the buyer and the lender. And we just put it in writing where if the house did not appraise, then we were not going to give that to the buyer because we were signing off on it, like saying, yes, okay, we're going to change the sales price. We're going to give $7,500 or $5,000 to the buyer. But if it doesn't appraise, then that's going to be removed, which they were okay with that. But that was before getting the appraisal. Well, we got the appraisal. It even appraised more, which was good. And we were able to give that to the, to the buyer. But I've never had it where they ask for it when they see that the appraisal came back higher and then ask for it. It usually happens like before. And I guess that price change helps according to the lender, helps the appraiser to look at that amount and try to appraise the house for that value or that sales price that we have. Yeah. But I mean, it worked out fine.
Yeah.
On our end. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, be careful on that too. On Sandy said too, this is one of those things where in a good market, you're usually fine, especially if you know the property is priced well. But I've seen things where it's listed at $350 and you go in at $360 asking for $10,000 back. That's clearly what you're doing, right? And the appraiser comes out and goes, well, okay, I'm going to appraise it at $350 because I see what you're doing. Then you're like, okay, well, like you said, you have to renegotiate at that point in time. Well, we can't give you $10,000, but it can come in at asking price, right? There's a part. Just be aware of that. Oftentimes, working with a listing broker, you can say, hey, we need to raise the price before we make the offer, before we consummate it, so that we're coming in at asking price. So we're all on the same page of what we're doing here. So, especially in a market that's rising, you'll protect yourself later from a good appraiser.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck with that. Let us know what else we can do to help for sure.
I will, Don. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what.
I'm glad you were able to log on today. That's good.
I know, right? Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any can you log in like a calendar in your phone so you can see what is going on every day in HomeSmart? Because I have to go through my computer to see what is going on every day. Like,
We had some great classes last week. It's too bad you weren't there. But yeah, on your Real Smart Agent app, you can access the HomeSmart calendar, and then you can add things that you want to attend, so it'll remind you on your app.
okay, all right, thank you.
And you can find it in RSA, even if you're not on the app on your computer. You can find it in the download section. I'm sorry, not downloads. Sorry, I'm doing broker review. So in the content section of RSA, all of the education, well, eventually I'll get there, education part, all the classes are there. So you can log on there too. And it's on our Facebook page too. I looked and I saw you are on our Facebook page. So if you monitor that, then it's usually on there too.
All right, thank you, Don.
You're welcome.
Just for argument's sake, I'm going to show you the calendar that's for everybody. There you go. So when you log on to your education, you got class schedule, my classes, or class schedules where you go and look at what all things are going on. Just mostly current. And usually if it's not current, it's my fault. So yeah, there you go.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Raul had an interesting one over the weekend.
Go ahead, Don, and then we'll go to Grace. And Glenda got kicked off, she said. So let's see.
Yes, Glenda got kicked off. I resent her the link. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Grace.
Hi. I just want to add on the app, because I did some this weekend for the first time on the app. The classes, the local stuff, Jose, it's at the very end, so it makes it easier. Mm-hmm. On the app, it shows you just a one-line list of everything, but if you scroll down till the very end, it's everything that just Houston. So just wanted to add that.
There you go.
Thank you, Grace. So you sent her another one? Okay. Glenda. Let's see.
Thank you. I'm back on. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. All right. I saw another hand, didn't I? Probably not.
I have a question.
Sure. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, okay, so I just got a house under contract.
Good for you.
I'm the listing agent. So we got through, we got under contract, they had the inspection, the buyer's agent sent an amendment with 3 little items, cleaning and, just 3 little items. Anywho, I sent it out to everyone, title, lender, like I always do. I get a call from the lender and he tells me, I don't want this amendment
I don't want to see it.
and I need you to tear it up. I sent it to RSA. I sent it to the title company. I mean, what do I do? What do I do with that?
Anybody needs to tear it up and doesn't want to see it, that's who needs to tear it up.
Exactly right. So,
Okay, so I do everything that I do and just tell the lender, you can tear yours up.
exactly. So
Maybe he wasn't talking about an actual physical act. Maybe he was talking about
he wanted you to amend it, obviously, or do something different. Now, I'm assuming it has to do with repairs or whatever.
Yes,
maybe.
because
Yeah.
he said if I take this in and put it in the file, I'm gonna have to charge the buyers $250 to go out and make sure that the vent was, the dryer vent was cleaned.
A reinspection. Yep. Basically, the appraiser will have to go back out. It's called a 403 or something like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Too bad.
there is unring that bell.
I am not, I told him, I was like, dude, I'm not tearing up a signed amendment.
No, but I was now. Obviously, just do what you did. Keep on doing what you did. For everybody on the call, this is so important. It doesn't matter which state you're in. This is a federal law. When you provide something that is part of the contract, you negotiate repairs, you go to a concession, whatever, the whole contract is sent to the lender. You know, if the lender asks you not to send a portion of it because they know it will affect the loan, it's called loan fraud, mortgage fraud. It's a Class C felony for the agent, the loan officer, the companies, you name it. You can go to prison for this and not only lose your license. This is bad. Yes, it's done. A lot of it, and I've had probably 100 different brokers over my career tell me, "Don't give me the inspection response." I go, "Too bad. You can do what you want with it, but I'm sending it to you as part of the contract." Now, up front, if you have a conversation with your lender saying that this loan, well, you can't have any repair items, fine. You work on a concession. You say, "Look, this is the purchase price. Seller's going to give us $10,000 for closing costs, and that's it." You know, but if you were in many cases, we had agents in lieu of repairs. Nope. Now they know you need repairs, right? It's either a concession or it's not. So if you're doing this, you have to do it up front. Once you have a signed amendment or addendum, as you have there, they have to see it, you know, and then they can work with it. So yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You did the right thing. But yeah, they have to understand that this is not minor stuff.
Okay, so one quick question. Can the buyers withdraw an assigned amendment after it's done because they change their mind or whatever? I mean, it's executed and we went to pending and the whole deal.
No, you can amend an amendment. Obviously, removing that, but they got to see both of them. So what do you? So then all of a sudden it's already on record, right? Or maybe they don't want something repaired. You know, you can amend it and say, you know,
Oh,
you know. So
okay. So if you were to amend it to say they don't want it repaired, how do you word that?
Just buyer assume or buyer assumes responsibility for doing their own work or something on this item, you know.
Okay, that's an out for them if they want to do it that way and save their $250.
If they want to avoid the $250, right?
Okay.
But, again, I don't think that at that point in time, spend the money, get it done right. You know, make it a lending condition. It's not going to kill the deal. I mean, if $250 kills the deal, so
no, it's 3 tiny little, a window screen, a door latch, and a dryer vent. I mean, that's it.
I've seen this stuff for like roofs. I've seen this stuff for, you know, siding, you know, or foundation stuff. No, that's major stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I can give him the option of doing a new amendment to say that they don't want to do it anymore.
You
okay.
could.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I probably wouldn't. I mean, afterwards, I mean, ask your buyers. I mean, ask your sellers, should say, you know, or because you're on the seller side, right?
No, I'm on the seller side. Yeah,
So-
they'll do whatever because they want the house sold. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Marty,
and
so
the
in
buyer's
reference-
agent would amend that amendment if they wanted a new one.
If they want to do that. Okay, good. I'll give her the option and then let it go.
Yep.
All right.
Yes,
Thanks,
Cindy.
guys.
You're welcome.
So in reference to that, if the lender tells you ahead of time, don't send me any amendments that have repairs on it, and they're telling you ahead of time, I mean,
Yeah.
I still send it.
Yeah,
Do I-
exactly.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you have to. If
Because they always tell me like, don't send me that, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm sending it to title. I'm CCing everybody, that way everybody can have it. Like you said, if you
Yeah.
don't want to present it, that's on him. But my buyers do want the repairs. I want everybody to know that those are being done.
Yep.
And
the lender, the actual lender, not the mortgage broker, makes a decision based on the entire contract and the appraisal to back it up, but whether they're going to take the if worth the risk to give the loan. If something's withheld from them that may affect the loan or the rate, whatever, it's mortgage fraud. So yes, you have to send it. So but you can be aware of that up front and talk to your buyer what your goal is, and the lender can talk to the buyer. But when you write the contract and negotiate terms, it's all got to be transparent. It's all got to be sent to everybody. So the whole contract. This is something that's pretty prevalent across our industry, and I'm surprised there's not bigger lawsuits, but there are serious penalties to it if we don't. So, okay, Thad, you're next.
Yeah, Marty, just to double back on Michelle's. I'm not referring specifically to Michelle, by the way. Just just as an example. So in her situation, whereby just like Dawn said, the bell has already been rung, right? So we already have this information floating with everybody. Need to know, and that sort of thing. You were supposed to know. You should have known. And Michelle has already determined that based on what the buyers are asking for, it is de minimis in terms of where the situation of the seller is. So if I had that situation, will it be better for me to just advise my seller, say, hey, look, the costs are de minimis. The bell has already been rung, whether I like it or not. Somebody has that information. So why don't we just go ahead and fix it and just move on?
Yeah, I mean, they've agreed to it. Obviously, at this point in time, it's a cost the lender will have to charge, but that's the buyer's lender. That's up to them. And what if discussion should have been up front is you're asking for these minor things. We can ask for the seller to fix them, or we can get a credit from the seller to fix them. Why don't you talk to your lender first before we ask for them? And the lender would direct them at that point in time, ask for a concession versus ask for repairs. So that's on the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent should have said, hey, let's negotiate, let's talk to the lender, make sure we're all on the same page. I always talk to my lender when I'm working with my buyer. How do you want this written? This is where we're going to go in. This is the offer price we want. Do we need closing costs? What do we need as far as this goes? And they'll say, this is what I need from a lending perspective. Communicate. It's not Michelle's part of the listing agent, and so, but to your point, that you can negotiate up front. If there's something small, either the buyer's going to take care of them on their own, we'll have the seller take care of them, they'll get a concession, whatever, but they should be communicating with the buyer's lender before the offer versus trying to fix it afterwards. Jose, you're up.
Yeah, what I have done is just that just give the buyer some credit, and that's it. We don't talk about repairs or anything else. Because I learned a long time ago that once a lender sees an inspection report on those repairs, they're going to ask every single repair, even if it was a something small, they're going to want somebody that was bonded and insured to do the repairs. So, and the lender is not going to close unless you have something from a professional company that's bonded and insured. In a honeydewer or a handyman, it's not bonded and insured. Even roofers are not supposed to be bonded, and they're not required to be bonded and insured. Even foundation repair companies some of them are not required because they're doing foundation work. They're not required to be insured, as I understand. So good luck trying to satisfy the lender's requirements on repairs.
Yep. And sometimes the lender will have a vendor list as well, but generally not. To your point, Jose. Yeah. Sometimes lender required repairs are those things in our contract. It's clear that no one's responsible for them. It's a negotiable item, but oftentimes a buyer, knowing that there's something to be repaired, won't ask for it during their option period. They'll rely on the lender to ask for it. That's, it's like sometimes that's dangerous because it gives an out for both parties if they're not addressed, like you said, with professionals. So Raul, you're up.
Yes, good morning. Yes, I remember back in not too long ago where you would have a loan officer lender would say, please don't submit any amendments with repairs or so. And we thought it was the correct way of doing it. But just when it comes to full communication, full transparency, that what keeps you going on that kind of, when the clock starts ticking, once you have an executed contract, it's all about communicating. And if you have a doubt, just, ask the other agent as well, just to make it work the best way. And a couple of occasions, we would send the amendment with repairs, and the loan officer would say, remember, I asked you not to send this in. I deleted the email because it was just, we didn't want to open it. It could have just been one repair or 20, but they didn't want to get involved, because that was thought that was the right thing to do. But I think it's full transparency. See, the contract says there's going to have repairs, and the other side knows where there's going to be either negotiated through the, price or actually through repairs. That's the best way to complete it, and everybody is aware of that. Yeah, to be aware of that. Mm-hmm.
There are so many different ways. On the major stuff, to your point, Raul, there's obviously the buyer can take care of them. They get a concession and do the work later. The seller can do it, or a third party with a licensed bonding contractor usually extends closing for those things. In rare cases now, you can still do an escrow holdback. Those are a whole different thing where escrow holds the money, pays out the vendors when the project's done post closing, which always has its own risk because now you're an owner relying on promises from other contractors to get paid and do the work. So yeah, it's crazy stuff. So, but yeah, part of what we do. All right. Anything else, guys?
Marty, I would say that whenever you have that situation with a lender telling you something like that, just ask them to send it to you by email.
Yeah.
You'll find out real quick whether or not it's something that they want on the record or not, of them telling you what to do.
Is Michelle still here? I mean, that's a good tip. But many times a loan officer, I shall say, because they're not the ones doing the lending. Well, what that has said in the past, I said the exact same thing. Send it to me in writing. Nope. Ain't gonna do it.
I had one like that where there was money left over on a contract. We had like $6,400 that the seller was going to pay towards buyer's costs, and there was like $1,500 left. And so the lender told the title company to take that $1,500 and put it on my commission with the expectation that I would pass it on to the buyer. And so sat down, I looked at my commission, $1,500 higher than it's supposed to be. And I go, how'd that happen? And the title company explained that the lender said to do that. And I said, we need to get the lender on the phone. So we got the lender on the phone by conference call and on speaker. And I told the lender, I said, I need something in writing saying it's okay for me to go ahead and pass this money on to the buyer. Oh, we didn't say to do that.
And title officer's like, but you told me. No, I didn't say that.
Oh, the title company and the lender got in an argument together. The lender was saying, we didn't say to do that. The title company said, you sure did. It's like, well, okay. And the whole time the buyer's just sitting there going, it's okay. Just give me the $1,500. It's like, these people don't care about you or I. If they find out I gave you $1,500, I lose my license, you lose your house.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to come and call your note due and payable. Mortgage fraud.
What Don is talking about, again, mortgage fraud. Why is that? Because oftentimes our agents will credit commission to a client all the time, right? But it's out of the money that's been already accounted for. Here's what I'm making. Out of what I'm making, I'm giving to the buyer. All disclosed to the lender. What they're talking about is the amount that wasn't disclosed. This is supposed to go back to the agent, and now it's being directed to the buyer. The buyer's only allowed, right? The numbers on their approvals based on how much they're putting down, the loan to value, the whole bit, credit report, and they can only get in many cases the money back up to the earnest money amount on VA loans only. Most time they can't, and this is a credit to the buyer that was not accounted for. So it's outside of the lending process. Again, withholding it from the lender, which is mortgage fraud, which is a Class C felony. So Don was smart. I would say, hey, wait a minute, you're putting me in trouble. Yeah. It's a small amount of dollars. It wouldn't be a big deal. Now, Don, if he could made the money later on and out of the charity of his heart gave the client $1,500, be great, right? But he can do what he wants with the money he makes. But that's not how things work. And we want to be above board. And so what they're trying to do is they made a mistake and they wanted to make sure that they didn't have to redo things, reapprove, because they may not have got approval with additional $1,500 given to the buyer.
Above board or under the table.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah, this is good stuff. There's so many things that it's easy to step in a ditch, if you will. Easy to, if you're not on the straight and narrow on these things. That's why we have to know the laws, know our forms, stay in compliance, because things that seem innocuous. Oh, no big deal. Don't send this addendum over. We don't want that. It'll hurt your client. Well, no, that's mortgage fraud. Okay.
Well, I think the biggest takeaway I get from this is if I was on the buyer side to watch this for the next time it comes with me is calling the lender and say, hey, what's the best way to deal with this before I send this amendment out?
Exactly.
Because I would have never thought about that.
Right.
Until,
we're all in there in the help and we're like, okay, fine. We're moving things around. As long as everything's disclosed, and then everybody has a clear copy of what we're doing. Usually you're perfectly fine. It's when you want to withhold documents or do things that are like, even raising the price to give them more. It's pretty clear what's happening, right? That's still one of those things where okay, I'm going to pay more so you can do. The buyer's still paying for it, and that's part of that clarity, right? Even some of the NAR lawsuits was about the fact that the buyers are typically paying our commission as a buyer's agent through the purchase price. One way or another, that's what they were claiming. And so it's more about disclosure in that regard. And here, before it was like, oh, you're not paying it. Well, they were. Okay. And here, the same thing. Well, buyer, we can raise the price, which means your mortgage payment may be a few dollars more, but the seller then can contribute that money towards you. It's a negotiation tactic. So in a market where the appraisals are going up. Yeah. Good stuff. Good question, Michelle. And on the listing side, you think, no big deal. Oh, yeah, well, it's not your problem. But yeah, you did the right thing by sending copies to everybody. And Jose, you probably don't have that too many problem with the auction sales you do. So with raising the price or appraisal amounts, that kind of stuff, huh?
I've had a few instances when after the appraisals came in, we increased the sales price because the buyer's agent asked, and we didn't see anything. It wasn't going to affect our figures, so we went ahead with it. The appraisal was already done. The buyer was approved, and the reason was, if I remember, is because the buyer wanted to buy down the interest rate. A few years ago, that was a program that some lenders were doing. I think trying to increase the sales price by $10,000, so the buyer could buy down the interest rate, because interest rate were a little bit above 7.5, 2022, I think, somewhere in there. Yeah, right. We did that a couple of times.
Yeah, once or twice. Fine. Yeah, your seller paid a little bit more in commission, paid a little bit more in title fees.
Yeah, they did. That's true.
But it helped the buyer out, and you moved the property. It's fine, but they did all above board, which is good. So.
What we did, there were some instances where we locked in the commissions of the agents on the previous sales price. We did lock that up at that the agent's commission on the original sales price. We did that a few times.
I mean, it's not a lot of money in difference, but $500-600 difference total, or $300 difference. But you're right. Yeah, the buyer agent commission based on this price, dollar amount, right? Yeah, yep, perfect. Raul, you got anything for us this morning? We got about 10 minutes left.
Sure. We Don was saying a little bit earlier that we had one of these situations where through the weekend, where one of our agents represents the seller, and of course they have a listing agreement paying 6%, and then all of a sudden she gets an offer our agent gets an offer where the buyer is an investor and buyer says, I have these terms that my own kind of a handwritten addenda in terms, but I will be paying you the 3% for buyers. From the buyer side, I'll pay you 3% just for helping out, but I don't want to be represented. So Don got involved. We asked him to get involved. It's just one of those situations where now would it be 9%? Will it just be down to 3%? I mean, that depends on the agent. We've seen a couple like that, but we just have to have the proper paperwork if that will be happening. Most likely not, since kind of evens out the 3% from the buyer on the 3% from one of the 3% of the seller, and then the other, if the agent wants to give them a deal to the seller, depends on the factors, right? To just lower that and get paid properly.
Yep. I've seen a lot lately where you have the buyer paying a couple percent, seller paying a couple percent, and combined, a total of 4 or whatever. And it's like, okay, as long as you have, in that case, so you have a buyer rep covering the amount, and you have the seller a listing agreement covering that amount, or some kind of a commission agreement doing that. I think in your case, obviously, they were saying the buyer doesn't want representation, but they're going to pay the listing agent's fee. And that's one of those things where if you have a listing agreement, it's almost like the language in the 12A1B, where the seller is paying what the buyer is obligated to pay the buyer broker. That's kind of language we would look for, is that the buyer will pay what the seller is obligated to pay, in a sense, toward the listing agent's fee. And that's the way you get away from having 9%. Right?
That deal, we had to go back and take a look at the listing agreement to see what the listing agreement originally said, to see, is there still money left over? Because listing agreement still said 6% being shared, 3% on the listing side, 3% on the selling side. If the buyer said, well, I'm willing to pick up 3%, there's still 3% more we need to talk about on the listing side. So, agent could still be eligible to receive 6%, 3% from the buyer, 3% from the seller. Or if the agent wanted to give the seller a break, just amend the listing agreement to a total of 3% and take care of it that way. So I don't know. How did it turn out, Raul? How's she doing it? How did
it's
she?
Still working out. It might end up at 3% from the buyer, maybe give a break to the seller down to 1%, making a 4% total.
That was the other
with all the paperwork but then again, just update, of course, the proper documents we need just to disclose it to the buyer. The buyer might not be his first time doing it as an investor, or not his first rodeo, so pretty experienced. But then again, it's you're doing the paperwork for the buyer, helping out, but I mean, you represent the seller and clarifying with that TXR 1417, of course.
1417. Yep. There you go.
Disclosure.
That IABS. I think it really goes to show how, even though we still talk about commissions and compensation being negotiable, contracts and paperwork is still all geared towards the seller paying commission and not so much buyer, other than the buyer rep. Because if we're saying that it really is supposed to be totally negotiable, why isn't there a place on the sales contract under buyer expenses to pay a certain amount of commission too? If you're going to make it equal, then make it equal.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
It'll probably be an amendment or a revision next year, Don.
Right? Yeah, maybe.
You and I were talking
we made suggestions before and they ignored them. So it just goes to show how much influence we actually have.
Don and I were talking about a year ago about getting rid of sub-agency. Of course, what did they do? They got rid of sub-agency. So
we guessed right.
Just a matter of time. That's where we go. Sandy, you got anything for us this morning? Sandy?
Well, I wanted to, talk about like going back and forth with forms. I know that us with the previous, Realty Associates, we were, at least in my, on me, I used to put so many forms together. I mean, I want to disclose this, I disclose everything. I know that on our RSA, just a few forms are needed. I try to still, fill out all my forms, send all my forms, and still provide them to my clients. Can I still upload those? Because I've been doing it, but then I feel like, okay, maybe they're like There are
Nope.
too many forms. She's uploading all of this and we don't need all of this. And I just like to see all that green. And I'm like, I'd rather put more forms that I'm asked for and not. So is it okay if I keep doing that? Okay.
100%. Don and I and Raul appreciate agents to put more in there, but you're watching out for your client. Whatever
Okay.
process you use, the forms we put there are the minimum required forms for a transaction. You know, this is one of those things where they're trying to get the agent paid. And then that's our gateway. That's like red line wherever we feel comfortable as a brokerage of the minimum amount. You can always put more, please. And
Okay.
please do.
Just wanted to make sure because that's the way I'm like kind of like passing this along to my mentees and agents that go to the office and try to get some training on that RSA.
Yep.
And I'm like, I mean, they're like, I have this other form, you know, we did our templates and we have all this form. And I'm like, keep doing it, you know, keep doing it and upload them. If you have them, if you have an amendment, just upload it. Even though it's not asking for an amendment, you just put it on there. You know, it changed something on the contract. So I just wanted to make sure that it was fine.
That's why we have the miscellaneous folder, is to put that. But just because it's there, it's really just because when the paperwork team goes in to start sorting this out, they don't know where to put it. And so it's there. Don't take it to mean that it's not just as important as the rest of it. It just means that the paperwork team didn't go and create a special folder just for it. They really look for those required forms to make sure that there's something in there. And then when they're not sure about the rest of it, it goes into miscellaneous, but it's all still important. So I'm on board with put it all in.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And Kristen said that she does sort forms, so you're good. Down there, you know, it is true. There's so many good forms. You know, there's the get an inspection form. There's, you know, make sure you check an insurance form. All those are really best practice. We try to make the required documents list, you know, your bare minimum, but stuff that we feel that covers your license and covers ours as well. Please do continue to add more. And we'll teach more about that too. Both Raul, Don, and myself, or all of us will teach on these best practice forms that we would like to see them, the additional ones. It comes down to me deciding which is required. And those are things like, okay, this definitely applies on this transaction, not on these transactions. So it's got to find something that's generic across the board that we've said, this is something that we absolutely must require. So
yes.
we go
Like
over
for
that
example, for example, like the walkthrough, final walkthrough.
Yeah.
A few agents were like, well, it's not necessary because they're not asking for it. I said, yes, it is necessary. You want to make sure that you did the final walkthrough, that they sign up on it, because you need to send a copy to the title company and sometimes to the listing agent as well. Because I do require it. You know, if I'm a listing agent, I do ask the buyer to send me a copy. I mean, the buyer's agent to send me a copy of it. So the agents were like, well, it's not necessary. No, yes, keep doing it. At least if you're under me, do it.
We get pushed back a little bit from that one, and we need to be more consistent about making sure we're calling for it because it's required form. And we get pushed back sometimes on the 1506 as well, the general information. We've seen too many times where it protects the agent and the brokerage, you know, and it's best practice when it comes down to it. We require it, not because, oh, you know, if you miss it, you're going to, you know, lose something. No, it's because you're doing your due diligence of advising your client by giving them the information that's put together for you. It's a promulgated form that says, watch out for all these different things that you as an agent may forget about, but going through the form, you're not forgetting about them. So it's really good. So.
And
Brittany,
thank you for continuing to teach your mentees that.
Yes, 100%. Brittany, got a question? You can unmute if you want to, Brittany. Don, you got something for us before we wrap it up?
I think we just about exhausted it.
I know, it's pretty awesome. I love where these go because it's open forum, right?
It's awesome. It really is. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I love it.
I thought Raul had his hand up. I thought he had.
Oh, I did. I can just throw in my 2 cents there with Sandy's comments, and of course, analyzing our clients, home buyers or sellers, and those different factors involved. Like, let's say the general information to a consumer pretty much covers all the words we're using throughout the contract, and of course the description of each one of them. But if we have going the extra mile, we have a client that's doing some wiring or transfer of funds, and we know that general information to a consumer covers that as wire fraud in a way, that description, but having that extra document or two form sign also acknowledge them to, be careful when we're doing this kind of a transfer of money. And it applies for all the forms. If we need those extra ones, by no means. It just covers everybody. Let's say 2 years from now, hypothetically speaking, that we get a complaint, and then we get an attorney calling us, and pretty much they're going to ask us, and I'm not giving any legal advice or getting in the attorney's shoes, but they'll ask, and I've been in that situation where, did the buyer had an IABS sign? Well, yes. They have this form sign. They have the general information of a consumer sign. So it brings it to that attention that these are very important forms to have. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi. Okay. First of all, I was going to say that we love Sandy. She's an amazing mentor. And we're just so grateful for all of her knowledge and input. But since I was here, I was going to ask, we have 2 listings coming up, and putting together our listing agreement. However, one of them doesn't want to go live on MLS. She's done some chat GPTing, and she doesn't want to go live until April, she said. Initially, she's like ready to go now. But what she wants to do on her end is like drum up some interest on social media and see if she can get an off the market offer. And so we were just kind of like in limbo about how we should advise her, and then also like legally what we're allowed to do by way of promoting this listing if she doesn't want to go live on MLS.
Well, they're trying to avoid commission at this point in time. It sounds like, if they can get a buyer off market, that means that they may or may not have to pay another agent or commission altogether. What can you do? Not much. They have the coming soon. That's a short period of time. There's because if you market a property prior to being on the listing, now you're in an HAR violation. There has to be a clear cooperation with all other agents to provide the property availability. They can do a FSBO, for sale by owner, market the property themselves without us involved. But that's probably not in their best interest. I'm sure they could. You can say, well, you can do it by yourself, but you could be exposed to more people, probably get more money. That's historically based on our numbers, working with an agent, myself, and exposing it to the market. And then there's a lot of things like the 1506 you go through that you're not thinking about right now that we have to deal with. Maybe a time to sit down with them and just talk about what their goals are. And if it comes down to being money, you're like,
Yeah, she thinks that she can get more money if she waits until April and gets this kind of excitement drummed up around the property.
Maybe she wants to hear from you how you're going to drum up information or drum up but through a coming soon. Say, we're going to make sure it's coming, we're going to promote it like crazy, and then we're going to go live in the market. We'll have open houses right away. We'll do this, this, and this. Maybe that will satisfy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Grace, you had something, or did you jump off?
No, it was more of public announcement about our Wednesday class with you at the office, Marty, in the Woodlands. If anybody is available, would like to attend, it's going to be from 10 to 12, business planning class. And we'll have food. Not sure yet if breakfast or lunch, but come hungry.
I like that.
I'm hungry already.
I like that. On the same day,
Every realtor's ears.
We're having, yes.
On the same day, Donna's down in Pearland from 1 to 4.
Yes.
So it's going to be good.
1 to 4, right, Don?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 to 4.
Forms,
And Dawn takes
101,
the
1
full
to 4.
time.
Yes.
Hey, Sandy, I'll help you promote that. But yeah, Brittany, in the Pearland office, 1 to 4 on Wednesday, Don does his in-person contracts 101 class, which it's those who have taken Don's class say it's the best class they've ever had. So no pressure, Don, but it's good.
I'm running out of money. I have to keep paying people to say
Right.
that.
Hopefully you can join us, Brittany.
Well, I'm hoping so. That's my goal. Is I was going to ask, and I know this is listed in the RSA portal under education, but when do the evening in-person classes, have those started, or when are those going to get kicked off? I know y'all teased us, and I'm excited to show up.
We won't have any evening in-person classes yet. We do have an evening virtual thing on the first Wednesday of every month, starting February 4th. It's 5:30 to 8. Don's doing the same thing, but he's doing it virtually. But the in-person evenings, we haven't figured that out yet. We'll look at it.
I'll take the virtual. I'm grateful. Thank you guys.
You're welcome. All right. Well, that was good. We're a little few minutes late, but thank you all. Hope you're all safe. It sounds like you are, which is good. And I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good rest of the week.
Everybody, have a good week.
Thank you very much.